Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to our folks on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corporation. Joined here alongside me is Sergeant Pete Greco, VP of Sales and Technology. It's going to be Pete and Intercept X with EDR asking the hard questions. So thanks for showing up to be interrogated. Just kidding. He's not going to interrogate anyone, but he is going to talk about Intercept X with EDR and how it's really kind of the next level, how it helps you to not only, see, detect, and remediate threats, but understand the source of them and the conditions that existed for that threat to enter your environment. So pretty good stuff. He has a bunch of data, a bunch of slides, and some cool commentary that I hope you really enjoy. But first, we're going to meet Productive in 1 minute. So let's get going. We know you only have 30 minutes, so we are going to move quickly. So here we go. Who is Productive Corporation? Well, thank you so much for asking silently. Productive provides security solutions for mid-sized companies. We have tons of specialized expertise to help with technical licensing questions as well as services. We implement, test, and optimize the products that we sell. We also can help with your security posture. We can help with AD security. We can help config and assist on UTM or other product implementation. We also offer a lot of third-party content that can be found at productivecorp.com/solving security. The bottom line is we have tons of resources to help you, whether that's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. Help at productivecorp.com. It goes to everybody here. We get right on it, use it. Or go old school with the phone, 612-375-0204. We are here, eager and happy to help. And one of the folks that's most eager and happy to help is a man named Pete Greco. He's going to talk to us today about Intercept X with EDR, where the problem starts, how to shrink the gap, how to get smarter without necessarily needing to add heads, looking at this space of EDR and helping you really assess and understand what happens before, during, and after a breach. So with that, I turn it over to Mr. Pete Greco. Pete?
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate you spending the time with us. Let me figure out where my mouse is so I can share my screen here. Todd, are you looking at my present mode?
I'm looking at the slides.
Oh, there we go. How's that?
There we go. I'm looking at it in presentation mode.
All right. So we've already covered the agenda. So if I can get the slides moving forward, we'll start talking about what we came to talk about. So part of the reason why everybody is here is going to be exemplified on this first set of statistics, right? Lots of malware out there. People are suffering downtime, or organizations, I should say, are suffering downtime because of the multitude and the complexity of the malware that is arriving at your organization. And it's coming in a lot via email, folks clicking on things, right? It's also coming in off of thumb drives, drive-by downloads, malvertising, right? A myriad of different ways. And some of these latest threats, like Purple Fox is a great example. It spreads in more than one way. So email is one of the methods that's used to get the ultimate threat into the environment. But if you land on a website where they've cracked an ad, you don't have to click on the ad. You just have to be on the website for it to ultimately get downloaded to a machine, right? So lots of organizations are seeing this stuff. It's taking too long to find it in a lot of cases. They're saying the average here 13 hours to discover. The threat can be complete. The damage can be done in way less time. And when you're talking about ransomware, finding out 13 hours later can really lead to a huge impact. Then folks are spending too much time trying to figure out what went down, how did we get this, where did it come from, right? And what most folks, and a lot of folks that we work with, simply don't have the manpower to be able to investigate to the depths that they would like to do. And that's where they bring in an organization like us a lot of times to come in and do that for them, because maybe they don't have the technical capability to do it, but oftentimes what we see is they just simply don't have the time because their workload is so big. And we've seen a lot of folks who've acquired the right kind of tools, but don't have time to learn how to use them, or don't take advantage of them to their full extent to be able to get the value out of them. We also see a lot of misconfig type situations, and then too much of people just not having enough security tools to actually meet the current demand. And there's a lot of people out there that really feel like if they've got antivirus, they're doing all they can. And last year, I think something like 60% of the threats were not detected by antivirus on the endpoint, right? So you got to be taking that game to the next level, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. So endpoint detection and response, right? It says defined by the gap. What are we really talking about here? So with many attacks, right? There's a signature. They're known because they're maybe poorly written. They're easy to detect, and they're quickly categorized, right, into the malicious category. And if they're fairly basic, right, pretty easy to detect that. And then there's the known good stuff, Microsoft Office. We know what that stuff is, right? Adobe Reader, Adobe Acrobat. When you install that, your AV is not triggering and saying, whoa, I don't know what this is, right? That's in the known good category. And so it's really in the middle is where EDR comes in. So your basic AV, machine learning, host-based intrusion prevention, right? That's covering the low end for you automatically. And you need that because it's reducing the noise of the stuff that really needs to be interrogated. And so traditional EDR, because of the complexity of the use, really took a long time to run. And then because of the basicness of the endpoint protection, it was looking at way too much stuff. So what Sophos is trying to do, or is doing, I should say, with the advent of the Intercept X product, which has been around now for, I think, over 4 years, maybe over 5 years, is they are reducing that gap, not just by detecting more malware, that's part of it, but also by blocking hacking techniques. So if someone's trying to attack you by launching a PowerShell script where they're then gonna copy off system credentials or try and elevate privileges or this kind of stuff, nobody is looking at that script and saying, oh, the script is bad, right? They're not able to see that unless you're looking at that with human eyes. What the Intercept X is going to do, though, is block the access to PowerShell, prevent that script from running. It's going to prevent a lot of the attempts to deploy malware, the hacking attempts. It's looking for things that are running in memory or trying to attack already running processes, things that are trying to attack the registry so that they can gain control over the machine and then bring in the payload, which could be a ransomware. I mentioned Purple Fox earlier, Emotet. Both of those malwares, what makes them highly successful, they can't be detected with the signature because the hash changes with every single installation. So it's always a brand new attack on any machine in any environment. So rather than looking for Emotet specifically or Purple Fox specifically, they're looking for the signs that occur when those kinds of attacks happen. When Intercept X leaves off, right, they've narrowed the gap, they've filtered out a lot of bad stuff, right, and then what's left in the gap is where the endpoint detection and response comes into play. And basically what this is doing now is it's looking at what has happened on the machine to make the determination of not only was this bad or is this likely to be bad, but then also what steps did it take to get to this point so that I can look at those steps across my environment and identify, even though the payload itself is going to be totally different, because I've seen these exact same steps that result in this payload, I'm looking for the steps that occur, and then I can use that to identify that the next step is going to be the attack. So any place where I see those steps, that's where I want to throw up a block and detect and stop that, and then be able to remediate and roll back, right? And so this is where a lot of organizations struggle, is reducing that gap in the first place, right? If that gap is too wide, where your endpoint product is not stopping enough stuff or can only see things that really are viruses or traditional Trojans or this kind of stuff, can't see fileless attacks like return-oriented programming or atom bombing or code caving or some of these other advanced techniques, right? You simply are going to have no idea what's going on until they cause you a problem. And there was a great story out for a company that collects web data off of users visiting websites, and they had no idea that they'd been under attack for over 2 years until the attackers had collected so much data that they filled up a hard drive on the server where they were storing it. That was when they first found out that they had a problem. And so they had been exfiltrating so much data that they actually maxed out a hard drive on a server. That's too late to find out that you've got an issue, right? So you need visibility, you need detection, you need an easy way to see. If you've got a dedicated InfoSec team, right, you're probably using a myriad of tools to go through and look at this stuff. But what we're finding with a lot of the organizations that we work with is they don't have an InfoSec team. They're lucky if they have an InfoSec guy, and it's really falling onto the networking team or the workstation team or the server team, or each of those teams to do their own investigation and response. And if they don't have the right tools, they can't do it. And if those tools are too hard to use, they're not going to be able to figure it out, or may not have time to dedicate to figuring it out. And that's a problem, really, right? So again, the Intercept X component is reducing that attack surface, reducing the amount of stuff that needs to be investigated by the EDR. The EDR contains a lot of automation built in, so that the bulk of the time when you're coming in to look at this, right, what you're seeing is that a threat has been detected. You're getting, and I'm going to show you some of these graphics in a minute, you're getting the visibility to see, did that threat have any success at all? And that doesn't mean that it worked all the way, but did it touch anything else? Did it spread? Did it go someplace else? Even if we stopped it, we still want to know if it did anything, so that we know if further remediation is gonna happen. And it's going to show you that and let you see pretty rapidly, no further action is needed here, or this is going to require some additional investigation. And if you have audits or compliance, you might need to do some of that investigation to meet your compliance requirements to show that you've taken care of business, or that everything has been identified that's been touched, or whatever, right? And so those are some of the tools that you're getting. So here's part of the interface, and we're showing some slides today, but if this is something that is intriguing to you and you'd like to learn more about, a live demo really is a great thing to take a look at. We can do something for you in under an hour. You can talk with myself or your productive account executive to get that set up, and we can kind of take you through this stuff in a live environment and show you what's really going on here. But this is threat searches that we're taking a look at here. So when you've got threats that have been identified, or suspicious files or suspicious happenings that have been identified, you're going to get that list right inside the console, which is cloud managed, so you can log in from anywhere, and you're going to see it on machines regardless of if they're on the network or off the network. So servers obviously are always going to be on the LAN, and workstations are going to be on the LAN. But if you got somebody who's working from home or is out on the road or whatever, and they receive a threat, you're going to be able to get that information as it's happening and be able to remediate while they're still out of the office, right? Or maybe isolate that machine so that when it does come back into the office, anything on it can't spread to any other machines until you can get a look at it. So a lot of cool things that you can do here. And one of the things that the threat searches is going to give you is the information that you need then to figure out what's going on, what has it touched, what has it done, did it get cleaned? And so this is my favorite thing to see here is cleaned. And what this tells me is I don't need to do anything. It's taking care of it for me. So I'm still getting a lot of information just in case, again, I work for an organization maybe with a lot of compliance where I still have to go in and prove that we cleaned it up or prove that we know what happened, that we're on top of our game, right? But for a lot of our clients and for our environment, when we see cleaned, we just get back to the regular part of our job. But I can change the priority. I can change the status. I can put in notes here. I can isolate this device. I can run a scan. I can click on the threat and get more information on what that threat is. I can click on the machine and see what's going on that machine. I can find out who the user is. All kinds of cool stuff to help me do my job and do it in an easy way, even if I'm not a dedicated security professional. So if I'm the server guy or the networking guy or the firewall guy or the SQL guy, I'm still going to have an easy time using this. There's a lot of advanced tools in here that the security pros can use and that the guys who have multiple hats on can get some benefit from, right? But this is not so in-depth that you're not going to be able to figure out what to do. You've also got, and this is a great, relatively new feature. I think it's been out for 6 months, the Threat Analysis Center. And this is going to give you a lot of information that is actionable as well. And one of my favorite things to do is threat searches. So if I see something come in, even if I see that it didn't work, and so check this out right here, right, this lister.exe, it's got a high suspicion rating. It's so far just has affected one device. Right, nothing has executed here. And so what I don't know, does this only reside on one device? Maybe it hasn't been detected yet because nothing else has happened. I can go ahead and copy this SHA 256 code, or if I had an executable, I could copy that, and then I could hop over to the threat searches, and I could actually hunt for that, and then I could clean and block it, and I would do that right over on the side here, or I'm sorry, I would do it up here after I checked on the threat. I could run a clean and block, and I could clean that off of every machine where I've detected it prior to it being launched and being detected. So really some neat features. I can also generate a threat case, which is a neat new feature. Threat cases have been a part of the product really from the beginning, but now the ability to see something and generate a threat case off of it, which is going to give you nice visibility on what's happened with that threat. What has it touched? Where did it come from? Did it touch anything? I see a lot of threats where it gets stopped so quickly, it doesn't touch anything, and now I'm getting a graphic visibility that everything is good. I don't need to worry about anything. It didn't touch anything off the network. It didn't touch any other machine, and it didn't touch any of my files or registry keys or anything else on the system. It got stopped cold, and that gives me the confidence to get on with the rest of my day. Anything that you're detecting, then again, we're able to collect that SHA 256. I could take this out to virus total. If now here, this is showing that it's 100% known bad reputation, right? We're going to clean and block that. What if it was somewhere in the middle? And this was something that I hadn't heard of before. Well, I can take this out to virus total and see what the community is saying about it. I could do some research on the web. I could reach out to Sophos or Productive Corporation for some additional assistance if I needed to. I could request the latest intelligence. Maybe this happened last night. It was on a test machine, so I wasn't too worked up about it, but I do want to kind of figure out what's going on. Right, I can go ahead and see what's happening right now. If I'm looking at it as it's happening, I probably got the latest intelligence, unless coincidentally Sophos is all over this as we speak. It's something brand new. Then I might see updates if I've just recently detected this. And again, I can search for it across my network. I can clean and block it. I can isolate this machine, and I can see a lot of other information here. So what are the properties of the file? I can really start understanding what's going on with this suspicious attack, or suspected attack is what I meant to say. And I can see what the machine learning is looking at to tag this as good or bad. And here's the machine learning tab. I'm getting some monitor flicker here, Todd. Are you guys seeing that, or is it looking okay? Like I got a loose.
You are looking fantastic from my end.
Okay, good. I might just see my monitor here. As long as you guys aren't seeing it, that's okay.
Yeah, no, this has been, this is perfect.
Okay. So now here, we've just zoomed up on this window, right? We've clicked on the machine learning analysis tab, and the machine learning product is really phenomenal inside of Sophos. They actually call it deep learning. A number of years ago, they bought really the only company that was being looked at by Gartner called Invincia, which really gave Sophos a big leap in the machine learning category. And basically where their product is different is they're using more of a neural network. So when they put something on an investigative path, they don't start by saying, okay, well, we think this looks like this kind of file. This looks like a Trojan, or this looks like a worm, or this looks like a virus, and then go through and try and figure out if that's what it is in fact. What they're doing is they're looking at it and saying, okay, well, it kind of looks like a virus, so we want to figure out if it's a virus, but we also want to see if it's anything else. And at any point in time, they can go down multiple paths of trying to identify what the file is, or they can intersect those paths so that as things change with the investigation, they don't get fooled and say, oh, we thought it was a virus. It's not a virus after all, but it turns out it's really something bad. They're going to see it on those other detection paths. And they've got a lot of data scientists that are continuing to build that product. And the way that they build it, interestingly, is they fed all the threats that they know about, 300 million plus threats over the last 30 years into this thing. And rather than reprogram it when it gets it wrong, they just tell it that it's wrong and they feed the threat in. And so they keep feeding the threats in, anything that it gets wrong, until it gets it right. And that's how it gets smarter and smarter. And so when they first bought this product, they did that in the first week. And right off the bat, it detected over 99% correctly right off the bat. And then they took that next batch and refed it back in, right? And then it got most of that right. And then they did that again, and they did that again. And it only took them a week to really run this process and get that thing tuned in an unbelievably sophisticated way to give you a lot of tremendous value here. And so this is where you're able to see what that technology is doing for you and get some advice on if we think this is likely to be good or likely to be bad. And you can see right at the top there, 87% suspicious. I'm going to tag that as suspicious. And again, I'm going to clean and block that, or hunt for it, or both, and then get on with my day. And anything that you clean and block, you're going to, if for some reason, and I haven't really seen this, or I haven't had a client report this back to us, but if you end up cleaning and blocking something that maybe was a custom written program, and now the developers are like, hey, what's going on? You can always come in and release that, right? And allow it to go, so it's not going to get detected again. Again, we haven't seen that, but you can do that, right? And when you search for that item, you'll be able to easily see all the machines where it exists. And then you can start kind of going, oh, wait, these are all developer machines. Maybe I want to check with these guys before I take the next move or figure out what's going on, or I'm pretty confident that this is bad and I want to clean it off all those machines. So a lot of capability there, right? And so again, this is what you ultimately want to see, blocked and cleaned, right? Here's our threat case that I was talking about earlier. So we've got the beacon. We can see where it originated from. On a live screen, I can click on these things and get a little bit more information on here. I can launch a scan on the machine to make sure that it's been fully remediated. I can see here one business file was involved, so it touched something. Maybe I want to go investigate that, right? And so what I like to see is, and most of the time what I'm seeing is stuff, because we're pretty browser heavy at Productive Corporation. We're using a lot of cloud technologies. So most of the time, if we see something, it's coming out of the browser. And then the second thing that we would see would be coming out of Outlook, just using some big numbers there. And so what I really want to see is when I see that threat here, I want to see that it's not touching anything else, and then I know no further investigation is needed. If it is, I might need to go and review that and see what's going on. And you're getting all that visibility. And you can keep notes and records in here, so if somebody comes back and asks, or if you want to go back and review how you've handled threats over the past 6 months or past year, or how you're need to show something to your supervisor, or you want to check in on your people to see how they're handling stuff, you can keep a full record of everything that's going on. So really some great stuff here. Here's a zoom up of the threat searches. So right, we're putting in these SHAs, we're putting in an executable, we're finding them, then we can status those across the environment. So if I'm finding this on 5 machines or 3 machines or 300 machines, I could clean and block those all at once. I could generate threat cases to see the details on every single one of those machines so that I could figure out, did this have success anywhere, right? A lot of capability there. And again, this is pretty interesting to see in a live demo. So here's how you're potentially going to be using this in real life, right? So it's probably going to start with an email. I think a lot of our folks are not logged into Sophos Central all day where they're seeing stuff just pop up in the dashboard. They're typically responding to an alert from an email, right? Then you're going to hop into the Threat Analysis Center and start looking at what's new, what's going on, right? You're going to start looking at the threat case to see, and previously this was called root cause analysis. If you've looked at the Intercept X back in the early days, right now called threat cases, taken up a little bit of a notch as far as capability is concerned, and giving you a little more info than it did in those, in those first that first year there. So a lot of capability here, seeing what's going on, right? Then the next thing that you're doing is trying to figure out where else does this exist. So I'm hunting for it, potentially copying that SHA-256. If I've got an executable name, maybe I'm looking for that executable. I can save that. So if for whatever reason, maybe I've got a bunch of folks that are not able to be communicated with. Maybe they're traveling, maybe they're in different time zones and they're not to work yet, or they're overseas, or whatever it might be. I can save this search so I can run it again later. And I could run it, you can save it indefinitely. So I could run it, when I get to my off hours, which is their on hours, or I could run it over the weekend or next week, or whatever it might be, right? If you have a Canadian organization, just over the past week here, we were closed down on Thursday. A lot of those folks were working. So if you're running this out of Canada, you might not have been able to scan a lot of off machines on Thursday, right? So I can save that and come back in and run that again at another time, or over and over again if I wanted to. I'm analyzing or looking at the analysis of the files to really figure out if I have something to be worried about, if it hasn't automatically been blocked and cleaned. And again, that's what you're going to see the bulk of the time, is you're going to come in and see right off the bat that thing has been detected, blocked, and cleaned, and then you're done for the day. Then I'm going to be able to drill in, use that deep learning, get those analytics off of that machine. I can request additional information if I need to, create a little report to give to my security guy, give to my boss, give to our consultant, whatever it might be, if I need to, and then I'm going to clean and block that threat moving forward. Oh, the other thing I was going to throw in on the clean and block, it's sophisticated enough to not let you make a mistake as well. So if you see something that gets detected, and a great example, we have a neat little plugin of macros for Microsoft Excel that does a lot of functions that I do in an automated way. Well, the way that operates, it looks suspicious. And so if I see Excel pop up in here, which is known good, now if I had a pirated version of Excel or a cracked version, that's going to be different. But if I have my digitally signed good Excel, it's not going to allow me to clean and block that, or clean and block a good Windows DLL or something that's going to compromise or crash your system as you're trying to remediate from an attack. So it's not going to let you bring down the network, right? So this is going to help you really figure out what happened. Was this contained to one machine? Right? It's helping you going to see stuff that potentially is going unnoticed with your current solution. Right? It's going to allow you to search for IOC across the environment, and understand, do you need to do further investigation, and where does that investigation start and end? Right? And then also do some analysis to figure out what's really going on here. Is this bad? Do I have a false alarm? Do I need to take action? And then be able to really have an understanding. You had something. Was it bad? How bad was it? Did I stop it? And do I have more work to do? And really makes it a great solution. Now, the Intercept X and the EDR run together with the Sophos antivirus. It's one agent, one console. If you're running another solution and you're not close to your renewal period, you might not feel like switching out AVs. You can still go a long way by adding the Intercept X component to another AV solution like a Trend Micro or Semantic or one of these things to get that advanced protection. You're not going to be able to get the EDR, but you're going to go a long way in stopping the fileless attacks, fileless ransomware, using the CryptoGuard, some of the memory protection, the PowerShell protection, all that good stuff. So a couple of different ways that this tool can help you. And we've got some other tools that we'd love to share with you if you're interested in having the conversation. Let me know, let your productive account executive know.
Yeah, that is fantastic stuff, right? And as you guys have looked at this, right, the thing coming after this, right, is the MTR, the Managed Threat Response. So we talked mostly about the EDR portion, but for some of you guys out there, you may want to have, if you don't have an InfoSec guy or you don't want to have, and you have the need to do it, you might look at that as an additional kind of service add-on, which that's just, is that launched yet, Pete, or is it just coming out now?
It launched in November, and basically, he kind of said it. Basically, what that's doing is anything that the automated detection can't do, the MTR service then puts a human on it. And so over 99 point, I can't remember what the exact number is, 98% of the time, Sophos, artificial intelligence, machine learning, the AV, that stuff is going to detect it and take care of the business. When it goes past that, that's where the humans can step in with the MTR service, and they'll be alerted automatically. There's a couple of different levels of service. So it can be, they can just tell you, this is what's going on, this is what we saw, and you can go and handle it from there. They can work with you. That's the middle level. You guys are working together, or totally managed and handled by them. They're doing not only the detection, but the full remediation on your behalf. Right, and keeping you in the loop. It's not going to be a situation where you find out on December 31st how many times they intervened over the year. You're in the loop 100% of the way, but really a great way to bolster an InfoSec guy or be your InfoSec team, and then you're not having to worry about staffing. And if you're in an area where it's hard to find InfoSec people, like maybe in Wyoming or Montana or kind of in a rural area, now you've got a team that you can rely on that's working on your behalf without having to go out and hire and recruit and find someone that is geographically convenient to where your organization is located. So it makes it great, especially for a lot of schools.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, Pete, thanks for a fantastic presentation, and everybody who took the time to come attend the webinar. Thank you very much. We know you have a lot of stuff on your plate, so the fact that you chose to spend time with us is very much appreciated. This wraps up the webinar series for 2019, so we'll be looking forward to chatting with you guys, if not this month, and definitely next year. And I say thanks for another great year. So for now, I'm Todd Obert from Productive, along with Pete Greco, wishing you a fantastic holiday season and a fantastic balance of your day and week. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.